Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. We'll just maybe wait a minute or two for anyone else to show up. Maybe in the meantime, maybe in the chat, tell me a little bit about who you are and where you're calling in from, and what you'll hope to learn from today's webinar. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So today we want to talk about recognition and how that counts. So hello and welcome everyone. I'm Joseph Hammett, and I'm the head of sales at HR Cloud. Today we're diving into something that is crucial for education institutions everywhere, and that's employee recognition. More specifically, we're going to talk about how to build a valued workforce in K-12 and higher education. As we know, teacher turnover is a major issue, and it doesn't just affect teachers, but support staff as well. While we often hear about pay raises as the go-to solution, recognition, so real, meaningful recognition, has a profound impact on retention and engagement. Today, I'm going to show you how to implement recognition strategies that work and are easy to start, even with tight budgets. So let's go to talk a little bit about what we want to accomplish today. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll take a look at the staffing crisis in education, specifically the high turnover and burnout that's happening in schools and universities. Then we'll move on to what actually works when it comes to employee recognition. I'll share a framework that has been proven to improve retention, morale, and engagement. After that, we'll pause for a quick live demo of HR Cloud's Workmates platform, and I'll show you how this can all come alive in a real application. And next, we'll talk about how to implement this in your school or district step by step. We'll also review a real-world example from Endeavor Schools, one of our recent customers, who use these strategies with great success. And finally, I'll open up everything to a question and answer, or answer any questions before we wrap up with a call to action. Feel free to send any questions you might have in the interim through the chat, and we'll catch those at the end as well. So let's start with understanding the staffing crisis in education. So let's talk about that staffing crisis. So teacher turnover is a huge problem that schools across the world are facing. Not only are teachers leaving the profession, but support staff are also feeling overwhelmed, and many are moving on to other positions. The issue isn't just about pay. It's really about feeling valued. Staff often feel disconnected and invisible in the daily grind, and that's where recognition can play a crucial role. Teachers and staff need to be seen, appreciated, and recognized for the great work they do, not just during annual reviews, but every day. Traditional recognition methods, like maybe a pizza party or Teacher of the Month awards and a nice parking place, are nice, but don't really address the deeper issues. Recognition has to be consistent, specific, and impactful. And we'll talk about how to make that happen in just a minute. So why doesn't traditional recognition programs work? For one, they're episodic. Recognition is often given once a month, or even worse, at the end of the year. But burnout doesn't happen just once a month. It happens every day. Recognition needs to be a regular part of the workday to be truly effective. Another issue is that it's repetitive. The same person getting recognized all the time, or the same group of people being recognized for similar actions. This leaves others feeling like their hard work is going unnoticed. And most of all, traditional recognition is top-down. Only leadership recognizes staff. But what if peers were recognizing each other? A teacher acknowledging another teacher's great work, or a cafeteria recognizing a custodian's contribution. That builds real connected culture and cross-team recognition. So how do we fix this? Let's talk about what actually works. To make recognition work, we need a new framework. Here's what's proven to drive results. Peer-to-peer recognition. Recognition shouldn't just come from leadership. It should flow across all levels. Teachers recognizing other teachers, staff recognizing other staff, staff recognizing teachers, teachers recognizing staff. It's all about creating a culture of appreciation at every level. And it needs to be instant recognition. Recognition should happen within 24 hours of the action, the immediacy. This means that when someone does something great, they get recognized immediately, not months later, and that creates a deeper impact. Specific and value-based recognition. Recognition should be tied to your school's values, things like collaboration, student first, innovation. It can't just be generic like, great job. It needs to be tied to specific work done and reflect what your school or district stands for. And it should be trackable. It's not enough to just say thank you. We need data to track recognition. Who's being recognized? Who's doing the recognizing? And whether all departments are engaged. This helps districts spot disengagement early and act on it. And these 4 principles, so peer-to-peer recognition, instant recognition and gratification, being specific and value-based, and being able to be trackable and reportable, are really the foundations of the culture of recognition, and that can work really well in education industry. All right, so now we're going to step and going to pause and move into a live demo of Workmates, and it's specifically how we can use recognition in this fashion in real practice. As we go through the demo, you'll see how easy it is for staff to recognize each other, how quick the process is, and how Workmates tracks everything in real time. We'll take a look at how recognition flows from teacher to teacher, principal to teacher, and even support staff recognizing each other. So let's dive in and see how Workmates brings recognition to life. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here, hop into the platform and talk a little bit about recognition. So what Workmates allows is a community app where all teachers, staff, and other team members are in one place. Creates a board, a feed where recognition is immediate and shared across the entire team. So here I am, maybe I'm an employee that wants to recognize one of my team members. So I can go in there and I can utilize these badges. So these badges are things that are built by the school, by the district, reflecting your unique culture, your unique values. So maybe something like teamwork is important at a certain one, or equity. So I can go ahead and give my coworkers shout outs for that. So here I can say, all right, maybe equity, maybe Antonio and Alicia helped us to put together an equity project for the district. So I can go in here and say, way to go. Thanks, for all the help with the diversity project. So I can go ahead and post this. They're going to be recognized. You can also create branded messaging. So if I get an equity recognition, it has a controlled branding. But oftentimes you want to allow them freedom to write specifically what happened. So now it's shared. You'll notice there now is a leaderboard. We can see Alicia. We can see Antonio on this leaderboard, both for the month as well as all time. And the other team members are also being notified. So they might be subscribed to push notifications about this through the mobile app, or maybe they get a daily digest email of all their team members that have worked or have been recognized, and then they can go in and like, comment, react, way to go. So in this case, it's not just, a formal presentation at the end of the month or end of the quarter, end of the semester, end of the year, but rather immediate and shared across the entire team. So we'll see here, there's lots of recognition there as well. And then you can take this recognition one step further. So oftentimes, schools that we work with might set up a reward program around this recognition. So maybe I want to recognize him for, innovation as an example. And I want to give him some points. So we can set it up to where he's now collecting points. So it's not just recognition, but rewards as well. You can collect these points in a wallet and then cash it out for gifts that you guys set up, gift cards, tangible things, intangible things. You can create your own custom rewards catalog. So this is all happening in one place. People know where recognition is occurring. It's a viral app. People are in there communicating with one another, recognizing one another, engaging with recognition, sharing it with other teams. So it's one app that brings recognition to the forefront in employee engagement. So this is the app side. This is the users, your teachers, your staff, your other team members. But there's also the ability to run reports and keep track of all of this. So as we'd mentioned, it's important to be able to have feedback, see what is going on in the world of recognition. So I can go in here and I can see who's giving the most kudos. Bonnie, Katie, Jackson. So they're actively out there recognizing their team members for exemplary activities. On the other side, who's receiving the most kudos? I can see Alicia, Avery, Alicia, the other Alicia giving lots of kudos or receiving lots of kudos. Maybe they're really stellar performers, so I can see what they're being recognized for. This is also all saved, so I can run the reports at the end of the semester, end of the school year to see what's going on. And then lastly, I can also see what are people being recognized for. So as you'll see here, we can see, well, community, equity, performance. Those seem to be important company values or school values, whereas vision, sustainability, leadership, people aren't being recognized for that. So is it something that's very difficult to obtain, or is it something that's not important to your organization? So you can get that feedback as well. So to sum up, really, recognition is a way, the Workmates application allows recognition to be on the spot, instantaneous, and viral and shared across the entire organization. On the other side, you're able to clearly see who's out there giving recognition, who's receiving recognition, and what type of recognition is prevalent within your organization. So switch back over here, and we'll talk a little bit about how this can be implemented. So now let's talk about how we can get recognition programs up and running in your district or your campus. So here's a simple three-phase roadmap to make this happen. Sorry, and it looks like I'm on the wrong slide. I apologize. So phase one is the pilot. Generally is a 30-day process. You start small, you pick one or two departments or a group of enthusiastic teachers. Keep it simple, with badges tied to school values if you don't already have badges or recognition program in mind. And then phase two is expansion. That's usually the second 30 days. So this is where you might roll it out to the entire school, to the entire district. Add support staff, introduce points and rewards, like maybe an extra day off, a catered lunch on a Friday, or professional development funds. And then the last phase is what we call integration. And this is the third 30 days. So that happens at 90 days. And this is where you start to be able to get real results. And you can see in those reports and analytics how you can tie recognition data to performance reviews. You use this data for retention conversations and highlight top recognized employees during board meetings, perhaps. So this approach ensures you roll it out step by step with measurable progress along the way. Now, I'd like to leave with a case study from a recent school that did exactly what we talked about. So let's look at Endeavor Schools. They use Workmates to implement a culture of recognition. Endeavor Schools was a growing network of private schools across the country. As they expanded, they needed a stronger way to communicate across multiple locations. Staff felt disconnected, and their existing tools weren't enough. They chose Workmates to bring communication, recognition, and employee feedback into one platform. Features like targeted content by location, department, school, and kudos with points and a custom rewards storefront help them engage employees more effectively. Workmates streamlined communication, strengthened connections across campuses, and made employees feel more informed and valued. Their experience shows that no matter the size of the organization, Workmates can scale to meet your needs and bring your school's culture together. Now I'd like to open up for any questions you have. I didn't see any come through the chat, so anybody raise their hand and ask questions or just send it through the chat, that works as well. Feel free to just type it right in there and I'll answer them one by one. It could be about the implementation, demo, or even how recognition can help in your specific school or district. I'm here to help. All right, so one school asked, from what you've seen with districts and school networks, What's the most common mistake schools make when they try to roll out a recognition program? I think the biggest mistake that can happen is if you don't have initial buy-in. So that's why we talked about starting small, phase one. So you need to make sure that you have a group, a department, a location, or something that's really looking for this and actively engaged with bringing together a recognition program like this. Because oftentimes you start small, they need to be the super users, really engaged and make sure they can get through everything. Once that happens, you now have a case study internally that shows this is how it works. This was our problem. This is how we fixed it. And then adoption across other departments, other locations is very, very quick and very low friction. Okay, and the next asks, you talk a lot about recognition being more than rewards. In schools where budgets are tight, what's the biggest mindset leaders need to make for recognition to actually work? So, you know, the nice thing about kudos and recognition in general, so the platform we were talking about, or any recognition for that matter, it doesn't have to be tied to rewards. Rewards just kind of a cherry on the top, right? So, people ultimately feel the most valued when they are recognized. The reward is nice, and maybe it encourages people to go and try to achieve these things, but really the central part is the recognition piece. So the kudos, just giving each other shout outs, we've seen with our customers, even ones that don't use any rewards program, and obviously that's at basically no cost, right? It's just the platform. You're not paying for rewards and everything. That's the biggest value. They see big engagement through their surveys in company or involvement, connection to the organization, connection to their team, just by being recognized frequently through the application. Any other questions? Okay, so another person mentioned recognition data, using recognition data to spot disengagement early. Can you share an example how leaders can use that insight before burnout turns into turnover? So we can, again, with these reports that we talked about, I'll just show it really fast. So we can drive down into different time periods. So we might see here, for example, Bonnie giving a lot of kudos in the last, let's say, 365 days. But we don't see very many kudos being given in the last 2 months, for example. So we can change the time period. We can target people that maybe have a high engagement level, but there's a drop off. Also, in other reports, the activity reports, overview reports, we can see what type of engagements is going on. In the activity report, maybe you have people that are contributors, they're actively creating content, and then you see them drop into dormant members. So maybe they're no longer logging in, they're no longer, engaging with their employees. So you get these early warnings through the application that maybe something's going on. So you might see that Bonnie has a drop off in her engagement, and now you might proactively have a conversation with her. Maybe nothing's going on. Maybe she forgot her password or something like that, but at least prompts that conversation. And then here, I think this one another question came in. Many educators say they feel appreciated by students, but invisible to the organization. How does peer-to-peer recognition change that experience compared to traditional top-down programs? So the nice thing about peer-to-peer recognition is it can happen really at any moment. Oftentimes, top-down recognition is at monthly, quarterly intervals, where peer-to-peer recognition, hey, maybe somebody came in, I was running late, my car broke down, and somebody hopped in and took care of my first period class. Oftentimes, that might be something that's not noticed. And it's definitely not going to oftentimes be noticed right there on that day. Instead, it's something that might come up in a meeting in a couple of weeks later. But in this case, my team ever helped me, they're going to be given that shout out right there on the spot. As soon as I get in, I go in and say, hey, thanks for the help broadcast. And now the rest of the team members, oh, way to go. Way to be a team member, Johnny. Maybe that's the teacher that filled in for that first period. So, top-down recognition, to kind of summarize, is really focused oftentimes at specific intervals where peer-to-peer recognition can happen sporadically across the entire day and week and month. And then here, I think we have one last question. For a student or district just getting started, what's one simple action they can take in the next 30 days to begin building a culture of recognition that actually sticks? So even without a platform like Workmates, the big thing is you need to create a recognition program that's consistent and specific to your organization. So this is where, core values might play a role. Instead of just having the token employee of the month, people being recognized on the spot for exemplifying core values, maybe teamwork, like the example I was talking about, filling in for for a coworker that's running late due to some car problems, or maybe, diversity or equity or inclusion or other things that still might be important within your district. So create things that are specific and meaningful and impactful to your organization and make it consistent so that everybody's on the same page. All right, everyone. Well, I really appreciate joining us today. I hope this session has helped you see how you can make recognition a part of your school's everyday culture. If you're ready to bring this into your district or campus, I encourage you to book a demo through our website. I put all the information here, and this will be shared post webinar. And let us show how Workmates can help your educators feel seen, appreciated, and valued every day. You can reach to me directly at joseph@hrcloud.com for any questions, or to set up your personalized demo, or visit hrcloud.com, and you can pick a time right there to meet with us, whether it's me or one of my team members. Let's build a workforce that feels connected, valued, and motivated. Thank you, and I look forward to speaking with you all soon. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.